Mike
Mike
Willie wants
Willie.
to know, you know, the shindo shin of raising kids in today's society. Now, I'm going to play a clip of someone. I guarantee y'all, you'll be able to figure out his political persuasion within a minute. Take a look at this, and then we'll get back to Mike Willie.
When you create a family, you are also creating a culture. And if that culture is a joyful culture, obviously it's not always going to be happy because sad things will happen, but if it's a joyful culture, if you are with your wife because you enjoy being married and she takes joy in you with all your flaws and you take joy in her with all her flaws and you take joy in your children, then you're going to have this joyful household, and the culture that you create in this household is going to have tremendous appeal. It's going to be a powerful thing because people are going to, your kids are going to say, hey, that is very cool. If you're saying like, if all you're saying is no, 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 don't do that, that's evil, then, you're not going to be, giving them a world of joy, of positive influences that is going to battle the culture outside. It's perfectly okay to make your point about the culture outside and even to forbid things, especially to younger children, that you don't want them to see. Even homeschooling them is, as far as I'm concerned, it can be a really wise move. But the most important thing you're going to do is pour the love and joy and show them that your way of life is a joyful way of life. And when they look around and see their friends taking drugs and looking like idiots, and when they see them, going off and becoming radicalized and being miserable, it's not going to have all that appeal to them. You'll have a lot more strength. Listen, as you go along the way, kids are going to believe all kinds of things, but joy is a powerful weapon.
By the way, did you catch that? Did you catch that Killmonger mask in his background?
I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't see it.
Y'all ain't see the Killmonger mask?
No, okay, go back.
I'm gonna play him one more time, and I want y'all to look over his right shoulder. It's underneath that.
When you create a family, you are also creating a culture. And
all right, look at that.
So, Mike Willie, I give you this sensitive subject about raising kids in today's society. Start us out, my brother. Give us your opening salvo. But what made you want to use this as the story that you was going to go with on this channel?
Just because I was watching Fatherhood, it really hit home for me because me and my daughter, we lost her mother, my wife, back in 2005, and
oh my goodness, brother, I'm sorry, my man. Look, Mike Willie, I'm telling you right now, my greatest fear is that or losing my wife and her. That's the one thing that scares me in life. And the only other thing that scares me is a blue whale. Those are the only two things I'm afraid of. But go ahead, finish, Mike Willie.
Yeah, just just thinking of our journey. My daughter just turned 20. And it hasn't always been easy. It's been a challenge. Mm-hmm. The main challenge is how today's society is with the whole social media. And then you have things that you see on television that we didn't see when you and I were coming up. And the thing is, we have to basically, like, even now, I invade my daughter's privacy, and the more you're in their business, the less they're going to stray away, because they stray away, all this television and the influences around them will capture them, and then it'll be hard to get them back.
Okay.
And and then a lot of kids are having kids, which also makes it hard. And then the dads are, either getting killed or going to jail. Then it's on a single mom, and she has to go to work to make ends meet. So the television and the community is raising the kids, but the community isn't the same as it was before. You used to be able to get a whooping from, Miss Jones down the street. Now let Miss Jones touch you is going to be an issue. So things of that nature it's totally different than it was in like the 90s or the 80s. It's totally different now.
Okay, good to hear from. We'll go to the other person on the panel that has a child. That's Moochella. Moochella, you can expand. You've got kids and you've got a boy, and you're a woman that had to raise a boy. Drop some knowledge on us, Moochie.
Well, he's grown now, and he between my my family and his dad's family, we all basically, like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. Basically, that's what it is. Everybody did their part. Like I said, I think we talked about discipline one time before. where if I had a problem, I have male figures to step in, and it is what it is. I feel like you should always keep the line of communication open with your child. You have to have a rapport when you talk to your child, not speaking at them. I never tried to embarrass my kid in front of his friends or anything like that. And I made myself clear that I wasn't his friend. I was his mom.
Okay, no doubt. Larry, talk about what you feel are the good ways to raise a child. I know you don't have one, but speak to how you was raised and what got you to where you're at.
Yeah, I think, obviously it depends on, on where you're raising your kids and how you decide you want to raise your kids. Because some people raise their kids in religious households. Some people don't. Some people find their, have their moral foundation in other ways. Some people raise their kids in the city, in the country, suburbs. It all really depends on where you're raising your kids, I think, because every time, depending on where you are, it's going to present different challenges. I think for Black folks, I think one of the most important things is just to constantly remind our kids that we're not going to have the same privilege that other kids are, in as much as even if they have white friends. That was one of those things that my dad had to constantly tell me growing up, is because I grew up in a pretty much all white area. He had to constantly remind me, you're not going to have the same privileges as these white kids. You can't do the same things they do and get away with it. You can do the same things they do, but you're not going to get away with it. And that was one of those things that I used to keep in the back of my mind when I would go out and go to parties, and I would see my friends get drunk, and some of them would drive drunk, and they would do various things. Those are things I just didn't do. And I think if you're a parent I think if you're being realistic and you're raising your kids in a realistic way, I think when the times come where when you're not by their side, when they're forced to have to live those life lessons that you gave them, they will, But I think if parents are, I shouldn't have to raise my kids like that. My kids should be able to be just the same way as anybody else. Well, you can think that, and then when they go to college and they get drunk and they drive home from a party, and the next thing you know, they lost their scholarship or got kicked out of school or whatever else, you're going to feel terrible because you didn't give them the tools that they needed to succeed. So okay. I think parents just have to, I think Black parents particularly just have to be realistic about their situations and raise their kids accordingly.
Now, I've had the opportunity in my short 41 years to work in so many fields, and a lot of them involve working with parents that had kids, young parents and teenage parents. I've worked with all of them. And what I've seen from all these parents is I've seen some parents who have done, by all standards, the very best for their child. And then that child becomes a teenager, goes off the beaten path, and does stupid shit. I've seen that. I've seen where you have some parents that completely shelter a child. Then when they finally get to college or whatever, the world is so totally different from what was inside their bubble. They clam up and don't know what to do. And then I've also seen parents where this seems to have been the best working scenario. From the minute their child can talk, they're doing the best they can to explain to their children everything they possibly can get that child to absorb, from the way life works, to communicating, to being in their life, to just letting them know that there's a voice there for them that is for them. But like Moochie said, I'm your parent and I love you, but I'm here to try to help you avoid some of the mess that goes on in life. And those kids still, they got into a little bit of trouble, but nothing that derailed them from still turning their future into something. I mean, this one girl, trouble she got into, and she had a great household. The girl was actually a great kid too. Her mom put her on punishment. She took her mom's car because she wanted to go to this party so bad. And I was there when this child was 5 years old, doing respiratory care with her, and basically was in and out of that girl's life till she was 15 when she took the car. And her mom grounded her and told her what happened and took away the other most important things in her life, which was her cell phone. That was her discipline. This mom used whippings throughout from the time she was 5 till about 12. She used whippings. That wasn't the discipline that worked from her. What worked for this child was taking the things away that she loved. And so I think that with anybody raising kids right now, you've got to find a line of communication. You got to do the best you can to understand your child. You've also got to find out what corners of the community are places and areas where you can trust your children. And also, I think it helps to get to know any friends that will become friends with your child. And even then, it still might not work out perfect. But at the end of the day, as a parent, you've got to do the best you can to understand what's going on with your child and keep a good eye on them. And, I'm with Elle every single weekend. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to let her know that, daddy's a place of peace. He's a place of love. He's disciplined. And you can talk to him. And he's going to be here for you to try to guide you to do what's right, to try to guide you when you mess up, so that when you become a sentient adult, you can have the best foot going forward.
I think that I think another thing parents need to do nowadays is to allow their kids to not always be so safe. I feel like nowadays parents are so paranoid that they're constantly holding their kids' hands. They know where their kids are every single second of every single day. They have tracking devices on their phones. They have Apple AirTags on them. They have all kinds of stuff on them. I see kids where the parents have leashes on them, and at times I'm thinking to myself, wow, let your kids run. Let them fall down. Let them bump their heads. They'll learn. If they're running around and they're turning around looking backwards while they're running forward and they smack into a wall, they won't do that again. Let them. I mean, I feel like you're there. I feel like parents should be there to protect their kids from the big stuff. You don't let them run out in the middle of the street so they get hit by a car and die.
I think the other part of what you're saying, Larry, is you also have to know know that child too. You got to know what pulls the strings for that child also.
Yeah, I feel like as far as like me being a single dad, don't get me wrong, I do have lots of help, but auntie or grandma can't be dad, and I feel like I have to give my daughter a mixture as much as I can get on her about what she's doing wrong, but it's nothing like that girl hearing I'm proud of you. So often we just want to discipline, but help them along the way. Just tell them that you're proud of them. Just give them a hug and see how much joy it brings to them. It's a lot of little things that we can do.
That's part of knowing your child. That's part of knowing what your child responds to and what they don't respond to. And the lady I worked with for the longest time, like she was beating the hell out of her little girl. When I say that, I don't mean like slap. She was giving her a whipping, and the child just was not responding to the whipping. The little girl that wasn't it for her. So when she finally figured out this little girl is addicted to this phone, she started taking that phone. That little girl started getting her act together. So for me, it's like identify what your child likes, and then just kind of tease it out. There is no one right pathway for there's no right pathway for everybody. There's foundations that we all can use to try to figure out which course we need to go with our child and our family. But there's no, this book's going to work for every family. It don't work like that. I don't think.
But also it's different stages with punishment with kids. Like when when my son was a certain age, I know the thing was his wrestlers, his action figures. I used to take all them things and put them in a shoebox.
What?
Take the cartridges to the game and the remote and leave the game there so he could see it. You gotta earn all of this back.
Lord,
that's how I was. You have to earn all of this back.
Now, see, as a boy.
Yeah, it was like
no. My Lord,
yeah.
Lord,
when he was little, yeah.
Lord, let me tell you when my mama quit giving me whippings. My mama quit giving me whippings when she realized how much I love Nintendo.
There you go. You gotta know what they how could I say it? I'm gonna be your kryptonite, so I'm gonna take them games. I used to take all his stuff, put it in a shoebox, and put it under my bed.
Oh,
and I dare you to go try to touch it.
Oh my God. You waited, Mooch. You took his action figures.
Yes, they used to be. I'd be like, come bring all your stuff. You didn't do this today. I got this report in school. And they used to go in the shoebox.
Oh my, Moochie, you took his action figures and his video game?
Yes, he had. First of all, he wasn't playing video games during the week, and I had off during the week at that time when he was little. So yeah, I used to give him a little bit where he could play it on the night that I was off, if I was off. But he had to do all his homework and stuff first. And not only that, he was a latchkey kid, so he had to make sure he had stuff done where I'm checking homework and because I go to work in the afternoon.
Okay.
So
I agree. I think that part of having punishment that's effective and works is being creative with it and knowing your kid. I mean, when I was coming up, my parents got divorced when I was about 10 or 11, something like that. And I realized quickly that my parents didn't have as much control or power over me as they like to make us think. And so when, it was one of those things, like if I was to get a spanking, I would be like, cool, I got my spanking, I'm done. I can go back outside now. And that's what I would be like, just hurry up and spank me so I can get on. And then afterwards, when they would try and punish me more and they would say, I'm going to put you on restriction for a week. And then I would be like, I'm just going to be out. I'm just going to leave. And they would say, you can't leave the house. If you do, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to do. And I would say, or what? Or what? That was once I realized the or what, there was really nothing else, because it was like, once you got divorced, I was like, okay, moms, you're at work. You're going to law school and you're at work. Dad, you're living it's the next city over. You can't do anything to me. There's nothing you can do. Really, what got me was when my dad got creative with punishments, and he was like, okay, you want to act up? You want to act a fool? Here's your punishment. Here's a 3-volume book on Frederick Douglass. Read them, and we're going to discuss it. And he started giving me these books, make me read like the autobiography of Malcolm X. He was giving me these books that got in my head. And he was like, okay, he knows. Here's a young black boy. He's living around all these white kids that are just a bunch of rich, spoiled fuck-ups. And I don't want my son to go down that path. So he gave me these books that got in my head. And I think that's one of those things. You have to be creative with your punishments. Otherwise, you end up with kids who are just defiant and don't really, it's like, okay. It's like nowadays, it's like when you hear about people going to jail. Oh, man, I can do a 12-month bid. That's nothing. Oh, I got to do 2 years. I can do that with my eyes closed. No problem. And they do it. They go get in trouble.
That's somebody that's already institutionalized where they talk about jail like this summer camp.
Right. Summer camp. Wow.
But it's nothing to some people. Even if the criminal courts gave people punishments that were actually something that they would either that they don't like more, or it's more hurtful to them, or something that's more that's more productive and constructive, maybe people wouldn't reoffend so much. I mean, if you told some dude, your job is going to be your job now is to go clean the freeways every single day, and if you don't, I don't know what kind of punishment you give them after that, but if they don't show up or something, but you have to figure out some other punishment.
I don't know. If I had a kid now, I would be changing the Wi-Fi password so I get everything done. I've seen somebody do that too.
Oh, I already got that in my mind.
I know somebody that does.
I already think about that.
Like when you get everything done, then you'll get today's Wi-Fi password.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're gonna turn it
that's
up.
What, if that works, then that's cool.
Unless you got a kid that's tech savvy, yeah.
I'll tell you, when I was a kid, one of the things that got me was because my parents used to threaten me with all kinds of, you can't do this, you can't do that, we're not going to get you this, we're not going to get you that. I had a paper route. I was like, I'll buy it myself. I don't need you to buy it. I'll buy it myself. And it wasn't until
I'll make you pay rent.
See,
it wasn't until my paper route was threatened. It wasn't until they threatened to take my paper route away that I was like, oh, hold on a minute. Hold on.
Oh, really? So you making money then?
Right. And my mama let me tell you what my mama done to me. Now, I'm critical of this behavior because we already in the hood, we poor. I played sports in high school. My mama made me sit out a year of sports for something, where one of them situations where the punishment didn't fit the crime. Just because her knowledge base of education, higher education, what it takes to get there wasn't there. I am a product of not my mother. I'm a product of my grandma, and as you all say, the community. Because that's who drugged me across the finish line. Wasn't really my mama's doing. My mama gave me food and popped me out of her vagina. Other than that, it was the grandma and the people in the community that kept me on the straight and narrow in times when I wanted to smoke cigarettes, when I wanted to do drugs, when I wanted to get drunk. there was always someone in the community and a few friends that said, nah, bro, you've got too much going on. Don't even go down this road. Don't even get involved with it. So I agree with you guys. You got to know your kid. Try to find people you can trust in the community that makes it a community, but make a good line of communication with your kid and understand them as best you can. So